You're listening to the Collected Podcast, bringing you inspiration and resources to help you discover and live from your truest self. Follow along on social media at Collected Workshops, and be sure to visit thecollectedpodcast.com for show notes and to learn more.
Welcome to episode 9 of the Collected Podcast. My name is Michaela Hooper, and I'm here with
Tia McNally.
And I'm Jess Biondo.
You guys are in for a treat. Renee Swope is the author of A Confident Heart, and you will be blown away by the depth and the story of her life. So,
yeah, Renee has such an incredible story of obedience. Just walking from one step into the next and watching the way that God let her life unfold through giving her yes to what was in front of her, and looking to community to bring her spiritual food and to kind of take care of her soul in that way, and finding her purpose in the process. So you guys are definitely going to want to take notes again on this one.
So here is our interview with Renee Swope.
Hey, Renee, so glad that you're here with us today.
Hey, it's great to be here. It's so good to see you guys.
Yes, and I'm just thrilled that after all these years of kind of knowing who you are, that we're able to connect and strike up a friendship, because I just think that you are such a lovely woman.
Oh,
I'm so happy you're here.
I'm so glad we got to connect recently, so I could find out about you and what you guys are doing too.
Thank you. Yeah. So, okay, we love the Enneagram, and we know you do too. So let's start with that. What's your number?
Okay, so much to my surprise, I am a 7 with a very strong 6 wing.
Oh.
So I thought I was a 6.
Okay.
And
so for the people who don't know, let's say what those things are.
Let's talk about those things. So 7s are what are called an enthusiast, and they love to have fun. They love spontaneity. They love variety. They want to experience everything. And then a 6 is the loyalist. So they are very loyal. They're very responsible. They're really grounded. Their struggle is with doubt. And then their biggest struggle, I think, their underlying struggle is with doubt. And then with the 7, which is the enthusiast, their biggest struggle is fear. And I struggle with both. Yeah. But before I ever took the test or read about the Enneagram, I knew a lot of 7s, and they're just some of the funnest people I know. And so when
Michaela is a 7.
Are you? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. And so I thought, there's no way I'm a 7. Like, I'm not that much fun. I can't be a 7. And so then I took it again, and then I took it again. So I took it 3 times because I was so convinced I was not a 7. But as I read about the 7, there was so much of myself I recognized. And what I realized is that as a child and as I grew up, that I really shut my 7 down. Because I felt like I had to be responsible. It feels like the 7 things about me looked irresponsible, or out of, I needed to get some focus. I needed to, be more professional. And so it's been so good, though. That's one of the things I've loved about the Enneagram, is really embracing who God created me to be. Yes. And a 7 and a 6, although they are next to each other, in the Enneagram, and so that's compatible, it sometimes feels like a contradiction is going on inside of me.
I feel a lot of tension in that combo.
Yeah, but as I've embraced being, and I'm a strong 6, I scored almost equally in both of them. But as I've embraced it, it's just so freeing, and I really feel like I'm growing into the fullness, of who I am, and letting myself be silly and stupid and crazy, off the wall. I love adventure. I love to do crazy things, but also be really professional. I tell people I can go from brilliant to stupid in less than 30 seconds. In
that way, I very much
ditzy and responsible in less than 15 seconds. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And so then tell us a little bit about your family.
So my family is, I feel like we have been around for a long time. And I guess it's because my husband and I have been married 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And yet the ages of our kids it have such a wide span. So our oldest is about to turn 24. He got married this past year. And so our firstborn, our baby got married. And so we have a new daughter in love is what I call her.
Aww.
And then Andrew is about to turn 21. So we've got 21 and 24. But then we also have our daughter Aster, who just turned 10.
Oh my goodness.
And we adopted Aster when she was 10 months old as a baby.
Okay.
We adopted her from Ethiopia. And so the boys were 11 and 13. So when I say I feel like we've been around a long time, I think when you just parent this long and you know you've got another 10 years to go with her at home or, 8, it just is like, wow, I feel like we've been around, for decades and decades and decades. But yeah, so now it's kind of like we have an only child. So Aster's our only one at home now. And we live right down the street, in Cornelius.
That's great.
And yeah, we love being together. It's been fun to have adult kids and just really the friendships that we have with our boys now are so different than the stage we're in. We have a great friendship with Aster, but she's 10 and she's going through that phase of I want my independence and I want to make my own decisions.
Oh boy.
And then being in another phase with our boys where we're encouraging and like breathing hope and confidence into the decisions they're making as we need to, let them make decisions and yet know that we're always going to be here. Whether they make the right decisions or the wrong decisions or they fail or whatever, like we're going to still be that soft place, that safe place to land.
I love that.
And so we're in a really neat place. But yeah, that's our family.
Beautiful.
So good. And so in addition to parenting, you also are a writer and speaker. And so tell us a little bit about your work.
So I am a writer and a speaker, but I always like to let people know, because a lot of people don't know this about me, is that I never wanted to do either one of them. I liked in junior high, writing poems for my boyfriend. I thought I was going to be like a famous love poem writer, but I never wanted to write a book or to speak. It's honestly something that I was pretty terrified of. And but it is what God's called me to do, and it's something now that I've been doing for 18 years. I've been speaking, and didn't start off where I am. Wasn't speaking at big women's conferences. Was speaking in a little coffee Bible study with 8 people in it, or even just beginning to share my story across the table with a neighbor or a friend. And then from there, as I was willing to share my story and God's story woven throughout mine. And he began to expand that circle. And just really over time, I recognized that I'm a communicator. He's called me to be a communicator. And so in whatever way, or form. So that might be through written words. It might be through spoken words. And for 10 years, I also was a co-host of a radio show.
You
with
were?
Proverbs
I didn't
31
know
Ministries.
that.
Yeah, you didn't know that.
No.
Yeah. So with Proverbs 31 Ministries, we have a 1-minute show. And Lisa and I were the co-host. And neither one of us had any radio experience, no broadcasting experience. And
Maybe
yet
that's why I always knew your name, Renee.
Oh, it could be if you listen to 91.9.
Yes.
If you okay, then
there
you
it
probably
is.
heard me every other day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you
so
still
those are
involved with Proverbs 31?
So I'm not. Just for the past couple of years, I transitioned out in 2016. We were just in a season of life with our daughter. She has some special needs, pretty significant, emotional and developmental, as well as some intellectual delays. And we were in a season of really needing me more at home.
Yeah.
We were moving. Our son was getting married, just a lot going on. And so after being with Proverbs for 21 years, I knew I was supposed to step down. It was so incredibly difficult.
That is hard.
But it's been good. I've given myself time to just grieve that sadness and the loss of what,
That's good.
Just like a family, and we're still friends, but it's never the same when you've been there especially being there for 21 years, because it started off like a tiny little newsletter and then became like a huge multifaceted international ministry that's reaching millions. And to be a part of it and watch it go from just a handful of friends that we were to what it is today. And I mean, I even it's only been a couple years, so even then when I left, it was just exploding with incredible things. And
That
continues
is so
to.
cool.
So
Neat.
got to do a lot of things there. Because I was over social media. I got to help in donor development. So it's kind of like being part of an entrepreneurial startup company where everybody does a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So it's neat as I look back. I have a degree in marketing and psychology, and as I look back, I don't have a degree in journalism or any kind of writing. And even though God called me to be a communicator, growing a ministry, all of those things that I had experience and education in, all like I can now see, like God completely used it. And then to be able to do that too with my faith and with my, pour into women what he was pouring into me was just incredible. So I'm so grateful.
Isn't it cool the way that sometimes maybe we're assigned to a certain job or study track or whatever it may be, and it may be completely unrelated to the next thing that you feel like God's asking you to do.
Yep.
And then they all sort of stack up one on top of the next, and suddenly you find yourself walking exactly in your purpose.
Yeah.
But if you equipping you for what's next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just want to encourage our listeners and let you know that if you feel like you are doing what God asked you to do, but it doesn't make sense in relationship to what he just asked you to do or what you feel like he might be asking you to do next, just wait. Just be patient, because it all adds up. It all adds up, and you are walking in your purpose even if it doesn't all make sense within like the span of your life.
Yeah.
I definitely experienced that myself. So I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm like, okay, good. I'm not the only one that went from labor and delivery nursing to working in Kenya to being a writer speaker.
Right.
Like
this path is,
what happened there?
This path is crazy. Am I just like, because we want it to look, and it's almost like the world gives us this clear-cut path, and if you do this, this, and this, then you'll be here.
Right.
But our path oftentimes looks like a hodgepodge, and I think sometimes myself, I'll be like, I look irresponsible, like and it's the 7 and the 6.
Yep.
And like, it should be this path, and yet, I mean, like, if I knew what God was doing when he brought me to Proverbs 31 Ministries, I never would have gone. It would have scared me half to death. I would have run.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so...
Which is so interesting, because what we're constantly talking about is saying yes to God when you don't know what that looks like.
Yep.
When you don't know what he's actually even asking you to do, when you give your yes. And maybe that's why sometimes we don't know, because we wouldn't do it.
It's a gift that we don't know the whole picture.
Yeah, and I think sometimes God's calling us north, and then all of a sudden we end up east, and we're like, wait a second, but I know that he was calling me north. Like, I go back and I look at my Bible and I underline these verses and I pray these prayers and this confirmation. But oftentimes I found God moved me north to get me northeast. Totally. But I never would have veered east had I not moved towards north. And so I've just learned to trust that the path doesn't have to make sense, and that just because there's a turn that wasn't included in the original instructions, it doesn't mean I heard him wrong.
That is good.
It doesn't mean that he changed his mind.
Yeah.
It's but that's what faith looks like. Walking in faith means walking where I can't see yet.
For sure.
Yeah.
Have there been times as you walked in faith where what you knew God was asking you to do required you to give up something, and you faced a difficult decision or change of direction?
Yeah, I would say, and it kind of ties in with the huge transition that I made in 2016. So, but I'll back up a little bit. I think it was right around 2007, my husband had been praying for 3 years. So around 2004, he had started praying that we would adopt. And we were in a season of life with our boys where it was just really, that unpredictable had become a little bit predictable, like predictable unpredictability.
Yes.
And we were just in a really good season, and I was finally getting comfortable where I was in ministry and what God's calling was. And so the thought of adopting it scared me, and I did not feel called. And I told my husband, his name's JJ, I just said, honey, like, please pray that if God's calling us, that he would call me. Like, I know God knows how to call me, and I know what it feels like to disobey, because I have, but I don't have that tug in my heart like I need to have, because when it gets hard, because I know it'll get hard, if we just do this because you feel called and you go back to work and all of my life has to change to be a mama, I'm going to resent you. And I'm just going to be, I'm going to be honest. And so he prayed, and just as I look back, I'm like, wow, he prayed and waited so patiently. Well, 3 years later, in 2007, through some just really unique circumstances that one day is going to be, it'll be in one of my next books. But God poured, I would say. It was not as gentle as laying. It was like pouring into me the desire to adopt.
Wow.
And giving me, through prayer, just a picture of a little girl and with dark skin that did not match mine. And going home and talking to my husband about it, and him and me saying, I think we need to pray about it. And him saying, oh, no, we don't. Like, I've been praying for 3 years. Like, we just need to start walking in faith. And I'm like, oh. But I knew that I knew because I could tell God was calling me. And it was just that tug in your heart with a rope that you just know. And so we started walking that path and walking through the doors, and God just did incredible things. Well, we thought we were going to adopt 2 little girls, 4 and 6. They'd be, about the same age my boys were. They'd have each other. We were going for that, sibling pair, and older kids tend not to get adopted as easily as babies. And we thought they'd have each other. And so we were walking that path. It looked like what God was calling us to. We got an assignment for, it's a referral.
Yeah.
And we were filling out the paperwork, and it fell through. And I call it like my adoption miscarriage because some paperwork got mixed up and another family ended up adopting them. And so then 6-7 months went by and we didn't hear anything from the adoption agency. And in the meantime, I had started working on my first ever book. And
Which is called?
my first book's called A Confident Heart.
Yep.
So this was in 2009. And right as I was finishing up, not the manuscript, but the proposal, which included a lot of the book, we got a call from the adoption agency with a referral for a 6-month-old baby girl.
Whoa.
Not 2 little girls, 4 and 6, who would, just be outside of preschool age, heading to school, a 6-month-old. And she weighed 8 pounds. So a severely malnourished little baby girl who was at high risk of neurological, problems. And it scared me half to death. And I remember my husband and my boys were like, that's so exciting. We'll have a baby. And I literally, for the first time ever, asked God if he was crazy. I literally said, Lord, I know you're the God of the universe, but are you crazy? This is insane. What are you thinking? Because as we prayed that week, just one thing after the other confirmed that this was indeed the child for us. And looking back, there's no doubt in my mind. But bringing home a baby when you are 42 years old and you have an 11 and 13-year-old boys who are in a very different and difficult stage of life, and then in your 40s, your brain, it just stops working a little bit. And then when you've had babies, those brain cells never come back anyway. And so you're just at a deficit. And so, I didn't even remember, what do you feed 10-month-olds? Are they still in diapers? I just literally could not remember all the things. But saying that big yes meant I knew there was going to be some other really big no's. And there have been. There have been. And yet, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It doesn't mean it hasn't been hard. There's been times when it's been really hard. And there's been times when there's just been a lot that I love doing that I've needed to give up so that I could give just more of me to a little girl who needs me more than my friends on social media or people who will read my next book or be at a speaking event or any of those things. There's just a lot of the things that are obscure and nobody can see them, and but pouring into the heart of a child and walking with her through the path of her special needs, and us being in a place of complete unknown as a parent of a child with special needs. And I'm sure there are listeners too who have been in places with their kids, or maybe their aging parents or a sibling or a friend or whatever, and when someone else in your life needs you, and yet you feel called to the crowds. And yet it's the one-on-one, and it's the behind the scenes, and you can just question, well, how does this fit into my purpose? And yet I can see, it's not so much, our purpose isn't about the difference we can make in other people's lives, but how it shapes us and how it changes us. And I'm more of who I was created to be than I've ever been before. But it's come not through the writing of the books or the recording on the radio or the speaking to thousands of women. It's come through the hidden times and those formation times sowed in tears and joy, and sitting across the table, from my family, and thinking and knowing like, wow, this is the best investment I've ever made. This is my most important purpose. It's people. It's pouring into these people one-on-one, close up, real life messy stuff. Yeah. So, long answer.
No, it's perfect.
It's so good. And it's all the things that people don't see on the surface, but that's where the real heart is, and the growth and development, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a surrender. I mean, it's not something, I don't think maybe we don't talk about it as much, but I think it's something we really need to talk about, because we all go through those hard things, and yet what we see on social media, or what we see from the stage when we're at a conference, or here on the radio or whatever, or on a podcast, we hear the good stuff, or it seems exciting and glamorous, but all of us have those messy places, and we just need to know that's a normal part of following God.
Yeah, and it's okay to talk about. And we in Collected talk a lot about giving God our yes, but I love how you brought up the point that every yes is going to mean some no's. And that can feel like something you have to grieve, even though you're making the right choice and the Lord is in it. That's still a process of recognizing this yes means some no's. And I don't think that's something, we've really talked about yet.
No. And in fact, that reminds me of a resource, one of my favorite books from a few years back, Essentialism. And I'm blanking on the author's name.
It's Greg McEwen, because it's sitting on my desk. I pulled it out today.
That's really funny. Okay, so that was meant to come up.
Yeah, I love that book.
But yes, what you say yes to does require that you say no.
Yeah, and I think it's a gift if we can talk to each other about the no's we have had to say, so that we can help each other be brave with our no's, because some of the no's I've had to say over the past few years have been my bravest no's, and it's hard. And, I will say, with being part of a ministry for 21 years and being part of building, Proverbs 31 Ministries, I poured my life into it because I wanted to, not because of anything I thought, like, I'll share with you eventually, like how I ended up at Proverbs, but it wasn't because I wanted to get anything except some friends. But when you pour your life because you're called to build something, just like a ministry you're building right now, you see yourself being there forever, and you want to be, because it's family, and you love it. And but there are other times it might be, I thought I'd be there forever. Lisa thought I'd be there forever. We all thought I'd be there forever. But it might not be. And one of the things you mentioned was just taking time to grieve. And that's something because I think we expect that, well, if this is what God's calling me to, then I shouldn't feel sad. Or if this is what God's calling me to, it shouldn't feel like a death. But this other thing shouldn't feel like a death. Like, it should just all be joy and peace. But it's not. No. It's really important. And I gave myself, in fact, I didn't even tell anybody I had left for a whole year, because I needed to give myself a year to privately grieve and transition and not have to answer anybody's questions. Just work through it myself.
I've done that exact same process. Yes, the organization that I worked for 8 years, that my sister-in-law and brother-in-law started in rural Kenya. I share in my interview that'll air after the first of the year that I felt like I would be cutting off my arm.
That's what
it was like. So much a part of who I was. But what the Lord has revealed in the meantime is my true identity. That yes, that was the work I was called to at that time, but that's not who I was. Right. But I did the same thing. It was very difficult to talk about leaving, and I'm really glad that concept of grieving your no's, even when you're stepping into the next exciting or not, maybe not exciting.
Because mine wasn't. I was stepping into the absolute unknown.
Wow.
I knew I was still writing a book, and I knew that I would keep speaking. But other than that, I didn't know anything.
Wow.
And I didn't know the lie I kept believing was, if you're not with Proverbs, you're going to be forgotten. You're going to become invisible. Wow. Because all people know is you through Proverbs 31. And I had to be willing. And I wrestled, and God, whispered to me, are you going to be like, you'll be okay, Renee. I see you. I see you.
Yes.
And you are not invisible, but are you willing to be invisible to go where I'm calling you? and to take a risk of losing everything that you've poured your life into to be positioned to receive what I have next for you. And
that's good.
You know, I cried through it. I mean, I wept through it, and thankfully God brought people though along to just whisper truths. And then in the years that have followed, it's been just little sweet gifts of things will happen. Like someone will say, like, I didn't even know you were with Proverbs. That's not at all how I knew about you.
I didn't know you've been with Proverbs until you said something about speaking on the radio. I was like, wait. Yes, that's familiar.
So, and that's just such a sweet gift from God. Because when you've been a part of something that has a big name, you know, and has really just making such a huge impact, you can then feel like, oh, well, then I won't make an impact if I'm not with them anymore. And so, and just realizing too, like, the culture we live in just chases big, and we make such a big deal out of big.
Yeah.
But it's one life at a time.
Yes.
It's one life at a time that is changed. And so that's what matters. And so I think we can get swept up into that cultural pull and then never feel like we're making a difference. And that's a great way for the enemy to just distract us and discourage us. Yep. And then we feel like we have nothing to offer, and we're just playing in the mud versus just offering just whatever we have that day to the person right in front of us.
That reminds me of what Jess Connolly said a few weeks ago about, she was on the podcast a few weeks ago, and she said that there should be no Christian celebrities. Yeah, that if we are all just walking in the Spirit and sharing the gospel and bringing heaven to earth our mission, that no one will be famous for that because we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Right.
I love that.
I do too.
Yeah,
I do too.
It's good stuff.
Your body is the God-given vessel for your soul, mind, heart, and spirit while you're here on this earth. Our bodies must be cared for in order for us to be our best selves. How we're doing physically affects how we show up for those we love. Remember, at Collected, we know that self-care is not selfish. But knowing how to care for our physical bodies in the right way can be challenging. Having the tools, knowledge, and time is crucial. Katie Dixon, owner of Katie Fit in Block Charlotte, is your daily resource for education and inspiration that will help you care for your body. Follow her on Instagram at KatieKatie. That's at KADIKATIE. As a gift to the Collected podcast listeners, Katie's offering a 1-month trial at either of her studios. Follow at Katie Fit in Lake Norman. That's at KADIFIT, or at block.clt in Charlotte. That's at BLOC.CLT. DM her for details on this special offer.
Well, could you tell us a little bit about your book, A Confident Heart, that came out in 2011?
Yes. So A Confident Heart is based on my own just paralyzing struggle with self-doubt and insecurity. That was a hidden struggle. You know, no one knew. Barely even my parents or my husband knew. It's not something I talked about because I just thought, well, if I tell other people what I'm struggling with or what I'm thinking or how I'm doubting myself, then they're going to notice and they're going to start to doubt me too. And yet I've worked so hard to convince myself and everyone else that I'm doing good. I'm great. I'm confident. I can do this. And so anyway, through some circumstances, I just started walking through a season of really, really struggling with self-doubt. And the opening story in the book, I share, I was in my bathroom. I was actually getting ready to go speak at Jess Connolly's mom's church. She's a women's ministry leader in Charleston at a wonderful church and a huge women's ministry. I was getting ready to go speak, struggling with self-doubt that whole week. Was in my bathroom putting on my mascara, and the lights above, the mirror, I was using that mirror right there, and when I turned around, I saw this huge 9-foot shadow on the wall in my bathroom, and those lights above the mirror were shining, and yet where I was standing was creating this huge shadow. And I'd never noticed it before, although I'm sure it had always been there. But God used that visual. As I stood there staring at the shadow, I just heard a whisper in my heart, you can only see the shadow because you've turned away from the light. Turn back towards the light. And I had been begging God to zap me with confidence, give me the spiritual gift of confidence. Like, I am following you and I don't want to go speak. I just want to put on my pajamas and make pizza that hopefully I won't burn. And at least, something I can actually do confidently. And but instead he gave me that visual. And so as I turned back towards the light, I couldn't see the shadow, but I felt like he was using that to just introduce me to the concept of the shadow of doubt and how we end up in the shadows of our self-doubts because we've turned away from the light of God's truth about what he says about us and his hope and his promises for us and what he calls us to. And I ended up that day and in the days ahead just going on a quest to figure out, like, what did it look like in the Bible when people struggled with doubt and how did God show up and what did he say to them and how did he walk with them? And so as I began to study scripture, I realized, oh, wow, I am not alone. This is actually a really common struggle for anyone who's been called by God. And that became so encouraging. And so as I began to unpack those truths, I began to speak about them. And then the response was so strong, which I was convinced nobody was going to really resonate with the messages, but it was the absolute opposite. And so through a weird series of events, like in the next 6 months, an agent came to me and said, why haven't you written a book on this? Why haven't you ever written a book? And so God opened some amazing doors and I began to write that book. And then Aster came into our life. And so this is so crazy. I wrote the book like in that year after she came home. And then the book released about 2 years after she was home. And my dad became very ill that same month. She was diagnosed with a significant speech disorder. And the book released, and God has just, carried it into the most amazing places. It's now in 6 languages.
What?
Wow. It's the last I heard, it was right around 150,000 copies sold in people's hands and hearts,
I love it.
And he's just done immeasurably more than I could have ever thought of or imagined with that message. And what I discovered is I wasn't the only one struggling with it, that obviously there's an epidemic struggle and yet we're not talking about it. And so I'm really excited I got to be a part of starting a conversation where I think now we are talking about a lot more than when the book released. But it continues to just be a message I'm trying to live and carry out and it's still like I go back to the book myself just to remember, because I wrote the book, I had like 50% of the content wasn't about doubt, but it was stuff I'd written over a period of probably 10 years that I pulled some into the book, but then 50% of it was brand new content that God taught me as I was writing it, and he really used the writing of the book to set me free from my from those last like major final grips that doubt had on me. I didn't write the book from a place of, oh, I have figured this all out, let me tell you how. In fact, self-doubt isn't something that I think ever goes away completely, but the book, what God did was he showed me what to do with it. That's amazing. Equipped me with not how to try harder, but how to turn sooner away from the darkness and away from the shadows and back towards the light.
I love that. And now you have a resource available called the 7-Day Doubt Diet. Can you tell us how people can get their hands on that?
Yeah, so go to reneeswope.com.
Okay.
And you'll find it right there on the front page.
Awesome.
7 days of devotionals that I pulled from the book, just free content, 7 days. It'll come into your inbox.
Awesome.
And also a free download of the first chapter of the book. And then I'm going to add some things so that we can apply it like over the holidays. I think family gatherings, work parties, all those things that can just, even like what to buy for someone, it just can bring up stuff. Stir up things in us. So there'll be some little holiday elements that I think will be really helpful around the Christmas and New Year's.
We'll put a link to it in our show notes.
Okay,
as
great.
well. Yeah,
Great.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow, Renee, it has been amazing getting a few minutes to chat with you. Thank you so much for being here.
I've loved being here. So, and since I didn't get to share with you guys, I'll write a post on my blog too about how I ended up at Proverbs 31 Ministries.
Oh,
so,
share with us real quick.
Go ahead. Yeah, we have time.
So I was very pregnant. We were in Blacksburg, Virginia. My husband was getting ready to graduate from school. I'm a little bit older than he is. So I was out of college. We had planned it this way that we would have our first child. And my mom mailed me a huge newspaper article from the Charlotte Observer. It was the family section. And it was about these 3 college graduates, women, who had left their careers to become stay-at-home moms. It was like this radical thing in 1995. Seriously, like the News and Observer did this huge article on it. And so they had started this itty-bitty ministry called the P31 Homemaker. So it was the Proverbs 31 Homemaker. So Proverbs 31 Ministries originally was a newsletter for stay-at-home moms.
Wow.
So here I was, pregnant with my first child. My mom cuts it out, sends it to me in Blacksburg, Blacksburg, Virginia, with a little yellow sticky note that says, "These sound like the kind of friends you need. I hope you find them when you get to Charlotte." Wow. Because they were stay-at-home moms who had young kids. And actually, Lisa Turkhurst was pregnant and expecting in May of 95, and I was too. Whoa. Her husband owned a Chick-fil-A, and I had worked at Chick-fil-A in high school. So I'm like, okay, it must be a God thing. And so I called.
Nuggets always bring us together.
So, yes, chicken nuggets and sweet tea, right? I mean, Isn't that the things friendships are bonded over? Now, some of you probably weren't even born in 1995. But some of you in the room.
Renee is indicating our producers, Nikki and Landon.
But back then, there was no such thing as the internet. So I called 411 to find out Lisa Turkhurst's phone number. And she answered and did not think I was a psycho. And actually, because I was like, "Oh, you're pregnant. I'm pregnant. We're moving to Charlotte. We have no idea where to live, where to go to church, pediatrician, nothing."
Yeah.
And so she was so sweet. She gave me some recommendations. And then she said, "Call me when you get here." And so a couple months after we moved to Charlotte, we got together for Chick-fil-A lunch. And then she told me about the ministry, and she asked me, if I wanted to volunteer, and I was like, sure. And so I just started volunteering because I didn't know how to be a Christian mom and wife. Yeah. I was a pretty young Christian, and we just became friends. And that was in 1995. And then from there, like I said, the ministry was just a newsletter. And so we would gather in each other's homes and lick stamps and put them on the newsletters.
Like a mailer newsletter, not even email newsletter.
In the mailbox. And then I became the editor of the newsletter. And I had the very fancy job of taking it to Kinko's and copying it. And then I not only was the editor, I was the graphics designer. So I would cut out clip art and use a wax pen to put on the back to stick on the layout. And so that's where I started. Yeah.
Scrapbooking, essentially.
Basically. Yes.
This
was before scrapbooking.
Wow.
The
Lord is faithful.
I am not 80 years old.
That is amazing.
That's the neat thing. Like I said earlier, if I had known God was taking me to Proverbs, because eventually the ministry would start a speaking ministry, and he would then nudge me to open my mouth and share my story, which I had been running from for 10 years. Yeah. Actually, but the first time I shared my story was through Forest Hill, where you and I were at church.
Okay.
When you were 6 years old.
Right.
And but if I had known that I would be speaking, I would be writing, I would have run. I just wanted some friends. I just wanted friends. And that's what I got.
I love it.
And I had no idea what the ministry would become, but I can see his hands all over it, and I can look back and see wow, God, and I'm so grateful. And I'm grateful he didn't tell me everything that was coming, because I don't think I could have handled it. And so, I just want to encourage you guys to, and in your ministry, and anybody listening, embrace the unknowns too. And enjoy where you are. Just enjoy where you are and suck the marrow out of it, and just soak up every bit that you can, and don't be in a hurry to get to that next place. Just enjoy right where you are.
That's good.
That's a good message, especially in the holidays right now. Just try and take time from the busyness to enjoy what God's placed in front of you in that moment.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've covered everything that we can cover today. So thank you again. You bet.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Wow. Like I said before, I was not able to speak into the interview, but I was listening, and again, Renee there are layers upon layers. Spiritually, she carries so much goodness and wisdom, and I'm just so grateful that I was able to sit in and listen and glean from her life. What an incredible, incredible woman.
One thing that Renee said that just really struck a chord with me is, are you willing to be invisible to go where I'm calling you?
Yes.
When God calls us to the background and away from reaching the multitudes into a place of just reaching the one, and giving us the capacity to do both. But impressing upon us the importance of being able to reach the one. It's just a very different place of intimacy in ministry that he takes us, and sometimes it can get really messy. And that was another thing that she spoke about, was these messy places. And I feel like just recently, kind of in our lives, the three of us, we've had times where we've just been really raw in the cracks of time and just been able to come before each other and say, hey guys, I'm not okay. Like, I'm really not okay today.
I'm so glad that we got that story at the very end.
Yes.
Because she said specifically that she needed friends.
Yep.
And to me, that was so powerful because that's so often the thing that we need. We need each other.
Yep.
And we need obviously the presence of the Lord, but we need each other to be in that.
Yes.
And to be in the midst of the mess
Yes.
together. That is incredibly powerful.
And when we are in community, purpose does come out. Purpose is revealed through community. When we see something in one another and we honor that and we call it out and we say, I see that you have this in you. Like the name of one of Renee's potential books was You've Got It in You. And that's what friends do. They see it and they say it. You have it in you. The Lord will do it through you.
And she sought it out.
Yeah.
She called Lisa. Was like, hey.
I love that. That was so brave.
I know.
That was so brave.
brave.
I
Yep.
love it.
My favorite part of the interview, and I brought this up in it too, was when she talked about the importance of saying no at times and how every yes will bring about no's. And that just really hit me. We spoke about the Enneagram, and I'm a 2, which is the helper. And so anytime at Collected or on these podcasts we talk about giving God your yes, honestly, that's easy for me because I feel like I'm filling a need and that fills me. And sometimes I say yes too quickly when it's not really the yes I'm supposed to be giving. And so sometimes obedience for me means giving God the right no.
Yeah.
Not saying no to God, but saying no to things in order to be available for what the correct yes is, which is sometimes hard for me to discern because I'll throw yeses at you all day.
But I think the powerful thing about that is God knows the sacrifice in our no. And so in that, like when we give space, like she was talking about grieving the no, God is present in that. And he is so aware of what we're sacrificing. And even in that, we can experience him. And that, to me, that's so powerful.
Man, there was so much goodness in this one. I can't wait to listen to it again.
I know.
Oh, man. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, and we will be back with you next Thursday.
Yeah, and if you like what you've heard, throw us some stars, 5, please.
Yes, please, and a few words in the review section. We'd love that. Thank you, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you for listening to the Collected Podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. And if you like what you've heard, we'd love it if you would spread the word. You can follow Collected on social media at Collected Workshops. You can also find Tia at Tia McNelly Notes and Jess at Spreza Foundry. Check back for weekly episodes dropping every Thursday.